With the quorum present, I'd like to call the Co-op Budget Committee meeting to order at 6:36 p.m. Tonight's meeting is a regular meeting for the month of January. That's actually back to our regular schedule of meeting on the fourth Thursday of the month. The agenda was posted in advance as necessary. I'd like to introduce myself, Darlene Mann, and the members present this evening, who include Tom Enright, Melanie LeVake, Brian Rader, Raul Blanchet, and Tony Stanizzi. I am expecting Tom Solon, so maybe he needs a few extra minutes, but Dave Glenn has an excused absence this evening. I'd also like to welcome Lance Folino, our business administrator, if you could all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. You're right, Melanie. I'll need to take a breath. Okay, I'll ask if there are any agenda adjustments this evening. Seeing none, I will appoint, I think it's Melanie tonight. Melanie is our process observer. And we'll move on to the approval of minutes. I'm going to change the way we normally do this. So, let me make sure I have the right thing open. No, I don't. Sorry, that's okay. So I will take a motion to approve the minutes of the December meeting as amended.
So, I'll make a motion.
Okay, moved by Raul, seconded by Melanie.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just run through the revisions that are being made. So on page 4, line 30, we're replacing ADA with the Americans with Disabilities Act. On page 7, line 31, we're going to correct the spelling of budget. Page 11, line 1, we're putting quotation marks around masters. Page 11, line 9, replacing the compound word select board with 2 individual words select board. And on page 11, line 45, making residents into plural residences. So those are the amendments that are being offered this evening. I don't know if anyone has any others they'd like to add. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of approving the December minutes as amended?
Aye.
1, 2, opposed? Abstentions. Sorry, you did the next word.
I wasn't there.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So Brian's abstaining. 501. Okay. Seeing no public present, we'll move right over public input. And move into the financial update for the co-op. So I did have an opportunity to share those results with you earlier today. So Lance, if you could lead us through those.
Sure. So latest revenue expense report, there's been some adjustments since I believe the last one was as of October 23rd. So at that point, the balance in the expenses was $868,000. It's gone up to 1.389 million, so an increase of 520,000. I'll kind of go over the big drivers of that, but there's a few. The first being some hiring savings and vacancies in regular education. So, as we move through the year and we have funds encumbered, we can adjust those if we haven't made a hiring or if we've hired somebody that's less expensive overall. So we make those adjustments, so that's gone up. The biggest drivers of that $520,000 increase, first, special education. Early on in the year, we have a lot of money encumbered for that. We don't know exactly what's going to change, and sometimes when things shift in special education, there's large amounts. So in October, we projected a shortfall of just over $6,000 there, and as of right now, we expect to have $240,000 left over in special education funds, so a swing of $246,000 there. Some savings on out-of-district tuition was the big driver of that. So that's the brunt of it. Small switches throughout the other lines as we move and adjust encumbrances. But another large one was within benefits. Balance is up $100,000 there. Again, it's a savings from some of those unfilled positions as well as different elections as people choose to take benefits. So that was the big driver there. Revenues coming in a little higher than expected, which is typical. We see those come up as we estimate those pretty conservatively early in the year. So gone up about $115,000 there. So the big change is the projected fund balance. In October, so back to it, we're predicting $86,000 as we've been able to make those adjustments. Now we're predicting $672,000. So a large increase there. So we'd rather see it trend in that direction than the other, to be frank. But the big driver being special education and some hiring savings with vacancies and benefits as we are able to adjust encumbrances as we move through the year. It's kind of the.
I was just gonna make a comment that, when you're trying to anticipate expenses, you gotta be conservative. And when you're trying to anticipate revenue, you have to be conservative. And that sometimes results in having a large delta, and which is good for the community, but we wanna make sure people don't misunderstand that as a way to accumulate extra resources and give them back to you. In other words, we gotta make the point and explain that that's the right way of doing this. Otherwise, it could be misconstrued or misjudged or misrepresented and create, uninformed reactions. That, that's the right way of doing it, and I'm glad that things are the way they are.
And I think that's something that'll come up when we just, closer to the end of the year when dialing in what that fund balance is going to be, what might be retained, what will be used to return to taxpayers to offset taxes.
Some people could say, well, if you're consistently coming up with a big, on a spend fund balance year after year, that means there's something wrong with the way you're creating budgets to begin with. They're too large, right? And I think people that they say that don't understand really the details of the process.
Yeah, and we also cut as well. Didn't we cut expenses as
Right.
well?
But I think as a matter of the methodology you're using, I think that's exactly right. I mean, if you have to anticipate what could happen, you have to have some reserve, right?
Part of budgeting is risk management.
Right, and I am very grateful that consistently on the years that I've been here, the school, the superintendent and the school principals, they work together to make sure that at the end of the year, there's always some resources left over.
Tom Solon, Tom Solon, who arrived at 6:40 p.m. for purposes of the minutes.
Actually got here early, but then I couldn't get to the door.
Ah, yes. A few of us have that similar problem.
It's unlocked now, in case anyone wants to show up. But, we just had our meeting last night, and we got the same information, and I'm going to talk to it a little bit more in my report. But Raul was 100% on target, and it's something that that we do want to discuss. And the point that he makes, and that we discussed last night, is that you don't have the option of coming back for a second cut. So we have to budget for worst case. We can't budget for average or typical. And as Raul said, being conservative, it's that and more. And it's great that this committee has that perspective and understands that. And it's nice that, unlike the SAU, we can turn it back when it's unused, and we don't just keep moving it forward. And that's something that we talked about, and I'll report on that more.
Okay.
And just to add to that, because I understand clearly, because I have to listen to the community, and a lot of people find negative things out of a positive situation. But to me, in explaining it to people, it's no different than an equity line of credit. You have the ability to spend it if you need it, and you don't, it's there. Because an equity line of credit is your money, it's your ability to borrow against your assets. This is no different, and it's a good way to manage your money, so you're not managing in emergency mode. Things are planned, things are organized, and if we have extra, and it stays
Well,
with the community.
And, you know, budgeting in and of itself, you know, a year and a half before, or, you know, a year before you know what your student population needs are gonna be in specific cases and things like that. We really do rely on the expertise of the people in the positions that they're in to be able to, you know, manage that risk, put forth what the expenses are, you know, what we anticipate them looking like, and then honestly being forced to work within them. Because while there are years in this case where we're seeing some savings in special education, there have been years where that has not been the case, and so other decisions had to be made to enable and you know, balance things in other aspects of the budget. So it does work both ways, and school districts simply cannot go over budget. So you know, we appreciate everything that everyone puts into their estimates as we work through the budget process, and as we continue to work through the year and look at encumbrances and evaluate on an ongoing and consistent basis where things look like they're going. And this is a great point in the year to be able to do that, because in October, things are just getting underway. We've just had the full staff, you know, all in. They haven't been here for that long and things like that. And so at this point in the year, you know, you can see a little bit of a more clear direction of where things are really going and can anticipate a little bit better, so. Okay, great, thank you, appreciate the conversation. Let's see, next on the agenda, I have, the FY '27 warrant overview. So in reviewing the articles, that'll come up, we can get a little bit more into a budget discussion. Sorry, I don't have the warrant up.
In that file that you forwarded for us to read ahead, was that the order and where's it gonna appear?
Yes, so we'll get into that in a minute.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. If I can find the warrant. Good Lord, it's been a day. There it is. So yes, so, there's new legislation that's in effect this year that moves the SAU budget to the first article in a warrant. So that's the reason why we see it listed as Article 1 for this year and ongoing unless the legislation were to change. And then after that, without any bond articles or, you know, anything like that, we are moving into the operating budget, collective bargaining, and some other things. So,
And is this order cast in concrete, or is it gonna be adjustable, can be adjustable at the district meeting?
well, articles can always be moved
around,
at,
including that first one?
yeah, if someone were to go to the microphone and wanna change the order to move something later in the meeting up, yes,
Okay.
there's nothing that says you have to vote on it first. The law says it has to be presented as the first article of the.
Introduced in the first
It has to
one,
be
okay.
listed on the article as the first
Okay.
on the warrant as the first article. After that, at a town meeting, yeah.
And what bill is that? Do you have a bill number by
I
chance?
don't have the bill
Okay.
number from last year, but it was in the spring of 2025, I believe, so
Okay.
we can.
Do we
find
understand
out.
what the rationale for that was? No, I'm just,
You know,
No,
I
I agree.
honestly,
No, I don't think there was one.
Well,
Tom, Solon?
what was proposed or speculated is that because it's an item that can't be changed by the meeting, but whether it's, especially in situations where there's a big difference between what's being voted on and the default, that it would enable you to anticipate what's coming on, but that was what was said, but it doesn't really hold water, because in a co-op, you don't know what the result is there. I speculate the reason is to give a platform to make a pitch for how excessive the expenditures are, to try and sway the audience to vote against other budget items.
An opportunity to sabotage the process or attack it,
Or
or
to,
criticize it, right?
yep,
Okay, so in our case, sorry, Tom and Ray.
That's a ballot vote, right?
It is a ballot vote, yes.
So it's very time consuming, and putting it first doesn't benefit the meeting in terms of moving.
It does not have any time limit on it, but it is a ballot vote, so, it's not like a 1 hour ballot vote like we have. In certain instances, we have to have a certain period of time for ballot votes. In this case, it's a ballot vote until the room votes and the
If I was
voting is
playing
complete.
chess, okay, I would see that as contributing to showcasing the types of meetings we have as not being good, too long, the audience cannot participate, and therefore we need SB2. When I look at a lot of these proposals, I think of it in terms of how is this impacting that decision? And what he just explained makes kind of sense.
So in our case, for Article 1, we would be voting on $1,230,494 as the co-op share of the overall SAU budget. And as everybody knows, this is a vote that takes place in each district. We are the district that goes last this year, so the moderator will be able to have the votes from Election Day in Brookline, when the Brookline School District votes, because they're SB2, and from the Hollis meeting as well, so there will be a result announced at the meeting itself. Okay, moving on to Article 2 is the operating budget of $31,716,292. So that is the amount we discussed last month. It came in under guidance and continues to be at the same place that it was last month. We made a decision as a budget committee not to adjust guidance, which I still support. And I will say that for the budget trend file that was shared, there is an updated, nothing changed.
are you sure? We were told last night that it dropped, a little bit from round 5.
It might have dropped
I think from round 4,
I can jump in. I think from just the staggering of the meetings, what was presented at the last board meeting compared to the last budget committee meeting
Yes.
was slightly different.
Oh, so it dropped since the last board meeting, but
not since the
it
last
had
budget
already
committee
dropped.
meeting. Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Mhm. So, the additional information that was included in the budget trend file is an updated CIP. So for fiscal year 2027, the amounts that are listed tie out to the new items sheet for the safety items and the maintenance expenses. So that's where you see the 691 and the 106 come together. And Lance has provided a revenue estimate, which I will incorporate into the apportionment estimate and the tax estimates that we share. That'll be as part of the public hearing presentation and later in the annual meeting deck. The amount in estimated revenue is up a little bit last year. At this point, I believe we estimated about 1.6 million. The new estimate for FY27 will be 1.8 million, which is really related to an increase or anticipated increase in special education aid. That's the main driver. So I'm not sure if anyone has any more questions. I'll just to give you a few statistics just as reminders. That operating budget represents a 3.76% increase from the current budget. And overall, once we're done looking at the whole warrant, it would be a 4.17% increase. As I mentioned, I have not had a chance to work through apportionment and what the estimated tax impacts are. We'll absolutely have that for the public hearing. But we stand right now there for the operating budget at a 3.76% increase, and guidance, the amount listed in the operating budget came in a little over $377,000 below guidance. And most of that, a lot of that is attributable to changes in special education, which seems to be on trend with kind of things happening with results that we're seeing, the revenue expense report that we're seeing this year, and that'll, looks like it's trending forward into next year.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned, so the co-op school district meeting, that is March 19th?
Yeah,
When's the Hollis?
I
Hollis.
believe,
Oh, Hollis School District.
Howell School
meeting.
District, I believe, is the is the 19th a Thursday?
The 19th is a Thursday, yes.
I believe the Hollis School District is on the 17th.
17th.
Okay, on that
Mhm.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, great.
And then the elections are the week
The 10th.
before, so.
Yeah, okay.
And I think Hollis
Hollis Town meeting?
town meeting is the Saturday, 17th, 16th, 14th, March
Hollis
14th.
and
It
Brookline
can't
are
be
both
March
on that
14th.
Saturday.
It's not March 14th.
Hollis and Brookline are both on that same Saturday.
It cannot be.
Why can't
We
we?
had that discussion.
I thought-
Hollis town meeting and Brookline town meetings are both on the 14th.
My understanding was that both of those meetings used the same broadcast equipment.
I don't know whether that's true or not, but I'm just telling you what I read on the calendars for both towns.
Okay. We'll have to, all right, I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yeah.
On the warrant articles as written, as you send them out, are they including the results of the latest legislations that apparently was passed to incorporate the tax impact in each one of those warrant articles?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay, then I'll withdraw the question.
Okay.
We are required to do that in Brookline. But I believe that was a vote.
But yeah, if they have, if a community or district passes, passed an article that requires the tax impact to be included on the warrant,
Okay,
it
then.
does have to be.
Yeah,
Um,
but we're not doing anything differently this year from what
No,
we've done in the past.
but I would, actually, I didn't mention this, on the ballot, no, let me think about this for a minute. So wouldn't the warrant articles for, I didn't ask this in Hollis, but for Hollis and the operating budget, co-op, need the language that discusses the proficiency scores? So,
Again, we have that in Brookline.
so, yes, so.
I can confirm.
Yeah, I
whether
would,
it
I
needs
would
to be on
double
there,
check
yeah.
that, Lance, cause I'm
Okay.
pretty confident it needs to be, in the language for Article 2 for
Mhm.
the operating budget.
Has the warrant gone to legal review yet, do you know?
Many times.
Because usually
Yeah.
they look at our,
And I can look back to see if we've asked that specifically about Hollis and the co-op. I can look back through those emails.
I think the language might, and this might be why it's not, but the language might say that the proficiency scores need to be listed on the ballot.
But not necessarily the warrant. I think you're
So
correct.
the
on
warrant and the
that.
ballot, so, but I guess the question is it, so a warrant isn't a ballot like someone's seeing on election day,
Right.
but it doesn't,
I think that technically that makes sense, because you don't have any discussion or presentation at the time of voting. And you know why that was put on, is to,
yeah,
Support SB two.
yeah. So, yeah, if you could just double check, like,
Yep.
if legal's approved it, and that's great, but if you could just double check that,
Sure.
it would make us all feel better, I think. So,
Mhm.
that would be great.
Absolutely.
So at this time, are there any other questions about the number or anything with the budget itself? At this time, I would like a motion to move $31,716,292 as the Budget Committee's recommended operating budget to be included on the warrant. That does not mean it's the recommendation of the Budget Committee. We do that recommendation after the public hearing, but it's just to confirm that we're acknowledging and moving that particular number to the budget.
So moved.
Thanks, Melanie.
I'll second.
Seconded by Raul. I don't know if there's any,
No.
no, okay. I don't know if there's any other discussion. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of moving 31,716,292 to the article, operating budget article? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, great, 600. The next article is for the second year of the support staff contract, which is valued at $131,512. So I anticipate that someone from the school board can maybe, at the public hearing, give a little bit of an overview about what the contents of that budget are. I anticipate that there, increases to salary and maybe some changes to
There's
coverage
normally
lines.
a complete explanation from someone who was on the negotiating
Yeah.
team.
Mm-hmm. Who was on the negotiating team for that, Tom? Do you recall?
Of the people who were on it, there's only one who's still there, so that means that Krista was on it, Tom was on it, I think. Were you on that, Tom? Were you on the last, HESA?
You asking me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
No.
you were on the one before it then,
Kate.
oh, 'cause Kate's
Kate.
there. They told me
Kate's there,
that-
but there was somebody else who's not there?
Yeah, I thought so. But,
Okay, somebody. Liz Brown? Anyway, doesn't matter.
but there are people who are there.
That can speak to it. Great. We have 300,000,
Well,
sorry, Tom.
there was some negotiation going on. Aren't we going to get any update on what happened? Wasn't there a negotiation?
That hasn't concluded yet. It's not part of, it's not impacting the warrant article.
Oh, it's not a money issue.
Well, it will be if it happens, it'll be a sidebar agreement, but it hasn't concluded. I asked the same question, it hasn't concluded.
So if it concludes with the financial implication that misses this warrant, do we know how we proceed? I can forward that question to Gina. Lance can take that back.
I don't know, in the past, we have had, well, how does it happen in a standardized contract? You just do it, even though the money doesn't match up if you have a sidebar agreement. I would assume if.
Yeah, but a lot of,
if the-
some
if the
sidebar agreements are more of like, management rights about.
No, but I'm talking about ones that have associated expenses.
Financial impact.
I would think they would
So
go back to
if the
others.
warrant is approved, if the warrant is approved, then the contract continues in its entirety for the year.
Well,
Right.
the contract itself is already Sanbornized.
The HESA contract.
Not
No,
this
this is not
one.
for
Not this
HESA.
one.
HESA, wasn't the one being like re-evaluated.
Yes,
It was,
it is,
oh, it is?
yes.
Oh, I thought it was the professional staff.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was benefits.
Give me a second.
It is for HESA.
But yes, that's.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
We're all right on top of this one.
Sorry.
It's very supports there.
So, oh,
Then that
that's a
needs
whole
to-
different set of questions then,
So,
isn't
it-
it? So it's anticipated that any cost of change of something that's negotiated would be covered by the 131,000 included here?
No. My understanding is that, from what I asked last night, the warrant article reflects the contract as it currently exists.
Okay,
We don't know what the change will be, so we can't make any changes to the number.
Well, that's all well and good, but
So you're not making changes to the contract
So
then,
should we
which
have
is
an
no financial.
XXXX and
Well,
take
no,
the-
you can't.
next
Yeah.
next month, I mean, this thing needs to be concluded. didn't the school board say, well, wait a minute, you can't negotiate forever? I mean,
I haven't been involved with the discussion. All I've been involved with is the information that was given to us last night,
Right.
which is that negotiations are ongoing. I don't know what the elements are, whether, it may even be that the plans or what they're trying to get that is not identified yet.
Okay, so,
And we have run the timeline past legal.
Okay.
And have gotten the okay. I don't want to speak more than I should.
yeah,
Because
that-
I'm
that's fine.
part of the
And that was
negotiating
kind of
team.
leading into my next question was, is there, I mean, if I recall with the
Ask him,
profession.
because I know nothing
No, well,
beyond this.
I'm looking at you
Okay.
because you've worked on the professional staff agreements, but isn't there a timeline involved, like by a certain date prior to, like, things need to be concluded, like, isn't it in statute?
That's when we have to get ratification of a contract. This is not ratification of a contract.
Right, we're not even there yet. But there is something that leads to a specific end date for ratification to occur in general.
If we are trying to get it approved for the next fiscal year.
Yeah, okay, so, and that's usually right around like the end of January, we're kind of like in that window, isn't it, for us?
We try, it's always been a point of discussion, but our goal is for the professional staff contracts, is to have a TA in time to present to the budget committee before the meeting at which they take positions.
Okay, and so this,
which would be this meeting.
no,
No, the
because we're
next one.
taking positions at the public hearing.
On the 19th
So,
of February.
so actually you have a little bit more time, because we have actually in the past walked into the public hearing
With a fresh,
immediately following a vote, but I'm pointing to like from the school board, where they went through their process with the contracts leading, like
We've
finishing at
asked you to meet-
6:30 before a 7 o'clock
meet
meeting.
before the meeting to do it.
So, I mean, we do have a later public hearing, which is the 19th, which is of February, which is, I think, the latest we've ever gone. So
But
that
we're
does
also-
give some additional time, but also, I think if you wanted to change or add to an article, you still have time to have another hearing in advance of the district meeting.
The question that hasn't been answered for me, and to be fair, I didn't explicitly ask it, was whether it needs to be in.
Right.
And I didn't ask it because the way that what I did ask was answered made me think that it did not have to be captured in the warrant article. And that did not seem unusual, only in the context that I know that our sidebar agreements that I've experienced with the professional staff and with the support staff, even those that did have financial impact, for instance, the change, we've given supplemental money, we've had ones with changes in position and other things like that. They were done in a cycle where they were negotiated, brought before the board, approved mid-year. So I don't,
And then any financial implication had to be absorbed in the budget that you were operating within.
yeah, and that's probably what it is that they're not looking to raise and appropriate additional funds for whatever we're doing.
Right. Okay, well,
According to, I think I can add this piece, according to our agreed upon timeline, we should be completed prior to the public hearings.
okay, so there might be an update to Article 4, and we'll just see how that works itself out within all the
And if
legal
not,
guidelines.
we'll be in the right context to have the overall discussion because it's a joint meeting.
Right, exactly.
So do we have to take a position tonight?
did I say Article 4?
No, you
Article
don't take
3.
positions
No, we're not
tonight.
taking any positions tonight.
Okay.
We can't take positions, because we take them after presenting the information, hearing from the public. Moving the amount to the, article was just like our kind of
Yeah.
step to say we're acknowledging that's what we want the article itself to say, because that's the only article that we own on the.
Point of clarification, last night, I thought that that was gonna be the case, and I was told that the board, and I don't know if it's true for the budget committee, takes positions on the warrant before, because the warrants, they're not up for discussion, so the public can see where their support and objections
Mhm.
during the hearing. So I know I was told that the board will be taking its position before the hearing starts.
Okay. Well, that will move things along after the hearing ends, because the budget committee, in holding the public hearing, taking input, can still adjust the number, technically adjust the number presented on the article.
Oh, you can?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
based on information presented. It's never happened, I'll say
Okay.
that, but based on information presented at the meeting, if specific requests are made, they can be considered by the budget committee.
Do you know if the board can do similarly? Because we have other warrants in there that are money.
Yep.
If we can change.
Well, when I
it-
say like specific amounts, I'm speaking specifically to the operating budget.
Well, I'm saying, for instance,
Yeah.
if the hearing,
Mhm.
there was compelling arguments to change a contingency amount or something. If it can change, then I would like to know, so that, in my mind, I think that board positions should be formed after getting public input.
Mhm. So, in the past, that's what the board has done.
That's what I thought. Okay. I'll look into it.
But I think it
Has
kind
Holly
of,
reached out to you yet? 'Cause
Who?
Holly?
no, I have not spoken with Holly.
Because after last night, she won't be reaching out to you. She's indisposed.
Okay.
But, I know they just wanted to confirm with you that the 19th was your planned meeting as well, because we assumed that it was, but we wanted to make sure.
Mhm. And just kind of speaking now, as I said, everything that I just said, I'm trying to think, on the Hollis side, is the board taking positions before the meeting?
I don't know that answer
Yeah.
offhand.
I think the select board is for the town hall, anyway. That's traditionally how we've done it, has been to take positions, after the public hearing's concluded.
We have, is there a statutory requirement to do it that way? Well, I'm not
I'll say,
asking you.
I've had boards that have taken positions on warrant articles before holding a public hearing on them, which I think is poor practice. But there's nothing illegal about it, because you can change your vote on things later on
Yeah,
after it. But if you're gonna do that, then why take the vote before the public meeting? It kind of just sends a bad message to the public.
And creates a
But-
bias.
But until the warrant articles are actually officially published, you can change your votes on them in a meeting,
Just give me a
regular
second.
meeting, of course.
if you're trying to look up the answer to my question,
I'm just
I'll
trying
withdraw
to
the question.
glance and see if something jumps out at me as I scan the budget preparation part of Article 32.
She reads very fast.
First hearing or any supplemental hearing is recessed at a later date, additional time noted, public sponsors. All purposes and amounts of appropriations to be included in the budget or special warrant articles shall be disclosed or discussed at the final hearing. The governing body or budget committee shall not thereafter insert in any budget column or special warrant article an additional amount or purpose of appropriation which was not disclosed or discussed at that hearing without first holding one or more public hearings on supplemental budget requests. So that's basically saying, if decisions and recommendations are made as a result of the public hearing, if something were to change, you would need to have another hearing to change the amounts and positions. Or the budget shall be passed by the rules, so, yeah. So our practice has just always been, again, not being able to read all of RSA 32 at this point, has been to take positions after the public hearing.
Can I ask, do we take positions on petition warrant articles as well?
If they have a financial impact,
Oh,
we
but not-
certainly can.
Okay.
The way we've just managed petition warrant articles as a committee has been, so it's anything with a stated financial impact, absolutely. Some of the petition warrant articles that have presented in the past have, for lack of a better word, implied financial impacts. So if there's something like a budget cap or a tax cap or something, that those have financial implications. And we've made a decision, we kind of take it on a case-by-case basis as a committee if we're comfortable taking a position on those things. So in those cases, we have. SB2, we've kind of left alone, and not. I think, did we have a charter commission one previously? I don't think we took a position on that. So anything that has a financial impact, whether stated or else, for, again, lack of a better word, implied, or attributed to the language, we have taken positions.
Okay, that makes sense.
Did you have a question?
No, yes.
Okay. Article 4 is the Building and Facilities Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund of $300,000. The items included in that are, comprised of $300,000, are a roof section at HBMS, ductwork, and track resurfacing at the high school. So those are the 3 items recommended for that $300,000. Article 5 is the $125,000 contingency fund. Article 6 is so this is this was a recommendation of the superintendent or the board, but by the board based on the superintendent's recommendation. Shall the Hollis Brookline Cooperative School District vote to adopt an open enrollment school program designating the Hollis Brookline Cooperative High School as an open enrollment school pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 194-D for the purpose of enabling the district to admit non-resident students to HBHS with 100% of its eligible resident pupils permitted to attend HBHS and 0% of its resident pupils in grades 7 to 12 permitted to attend open enrollment schools located outside of the district, and further, to limit the number of non-resident pupils who may attend HBHS under the provisions of RSA 194-D to no more than 5 students.
That is going to be altered after last night's meeting. Do you have the wording there?
We don't have updated wording yet, but the 2 main things is make sure we address the middle school in there because it's not.
Stated explicitly, yeah.
And then also adding language to limit that enrollment to certain grade levels, so that way, the goal is to prevent
It's saying
needing to
no
add
more-
sections.
No more than 2 students in any single grade level of the 5.
Correct.
So, open enrollment has been a big topic in the legislature last year as well as this year. So the way the legislation passed last year, it said that only schools who each identify as open enrollment schools could have students move between them. So each school had to be designated as an open enrollment school, so one that would accept students
So
from
what was the
outside the
motivation?
district.
But there's a, you know, you're gonna get to the catch?
Yes, so, there was a court case later in the year after the legislation passed, where a district that was not designated as an open enrollment district still had to, I'm sorry, which way did it go, Tom? Accept or pay? Pay.
It had, they had students, they had families in their district that sent their students to other districts and then asked their home district
To pay for
to
it.
pay for it.
Right, so now that district where the students were coming from who would have to pay was not designated as an open enrollment school, but the court found that they still needed to pay the costs of those students going to another district. So, this type of article is something that
The
Tom, if
rule-
you wanna explain why it's maybe you're the better
rule-
person to explain why it's coming forward.
The reason that they were ordered to pay was that they had not taken a position, and therefore, the default is, if you don't take a position, then you are participating. So that has implicitly required that any schools that want to have control over that aspect should declare themselves open enrollment and then put the limits of their participation in that statement of how they are behaving.
So following on that, and the overall question, I could then say, okay, I'm gonna be open enrollment, my limit is 0,
Correct.
and all the elements.
And
Well,
what does that do?
And we could, well, if
I can
you
chime in
do
on that, too.
everything 0,
Mhm.
then that's not a change to your position.
So I'd rather say, we're not participating,
I
period.
understand,
I mean,
Raul, but the concern is they're not sure how the courts would rule in that case. So it was thought to be safer to make a change. It's like when we did the $1 to
Dollar for the
apportionment.
apportionment. Mhm.
And on top of that,
Raul's rule.
the feeling is that in the high school, we do have room for a small, limited number to come in. And
Today,
the way yes, and the way that the reimbursement goes is that the sending district reimburses the receiving district at 80% of the sending district's New Hampshire stated cost per pupil, and where the co-op is below average and their cost per pupil, and the neighboring districts to us who would be most likely to send are higher, we probably would be financially whole if that occurred as well.
at the beginning, but who knows what the future will bring.
But you can change this every year.
The other question that I have is, what about special education students?
The sending district is responsible in most instances. It's really an elaborate thing. I would encourage you, if you still have the link to the NHSBA stuff, the webinar is recorded. I didn't attend in person, but I watched the recording, and it was very thorough.
Oh, that would be great. I will find that. I haven't seen that, so.
It's an interesting discussion, but this is also one of those articles
Yeah.
that the budget committee would need to decide whether or not to take a position on it or
Right.
not.
Can I just ask a question?
We could, because it is dollar impacting, there's
Yeah.
revenue associated with it, so.
I'm concerned a little bit about an absolute number, like say 5 students, because we also have students going out. We have students that go to Nashua for certain programs they offer there that we don't offer here. We got Alverin, and that's the, animal science programs, students going there. So it maybe should be looked at as a net number. If we have 5 students going out and 5 students coming in, that's a net 0.
So students going to those programs aren't considered open enrollment students? We pay for the students that are attending those programs already at, designated rates that are actually based on
And
cost
the-
per pupil.
Tuition students aren't included,
Right,
CTE, other programs, hardship, any of those. Open enrollment is an entity unto itself, and I do believe that the numbers that were proposed in this warrant article took into account the total picture of enrollment, and as is thrown in our face on a daily basis, we are not at our peak numbers currently.
So
The bigger concern is at certain grades, having just a couple of students in a course could drive it to have another section. And that was the biggest concern about having too large a number.
So what was your original motivation behind this proposal or this?
To stave off a external petition warrant article that was put forth that might be detrimental, that did not have the forethought that's gone into this one.
So this solution really was the result of an anticipated or potential,
It's preemptive.
but I think, in my opinion, it creates more other issues that,
The law created a situation that requires a school district to take a position. The court ruling reinforces that requirement, and we were convinced by compelling arguments and past legal cases that to not take a position was too large a risk than we were willing to assume.
and as you said, there will be changes to the wording based on your meeting, so we'll get that in an updated version.
But they're very, very subtle. What it is
Oh, like you said, the grade
because
level.
the middle school wasn't in it, so we want to explicitly state the middle school is 0.
Mhm.
Because with middle school, because they don't have the same elective structure,
Right.
it's a very different impact if children come into that.
Mhm.
And we didn't want to get into the situation where all 5 students came in at, say, the sophomore level, where we do have large numbers. Our lowest enrollment is at 11th and 12th grades. We could handle a couple in the lower grades. That was the reason for the wording that as proposed.
further discussion will happen at the district, I can tell you that.
I'm sure it
This
will.
is somewhat controversial.
Yeah.
At this time, I know the window is still open for petition articles. Has the district received any yet?
There is one for the co-op at this point.
Can you say what the topic is?
Yeah.
I believe establishing a charter commission.
But
Okay.
it doesn't go on the warrant. It's a ballot question. That's why it's not on the warrant.
Okay.
So, question about the Charter Commission. Are you familiar with them? Because
Not
I think
really.
Salem has one. But
Oh,
I
well,
was-
for the town, not for the
for
school
the
district.
Okay. So, what does that entail? Can someone,
No.
no?
I've asked for the details of it. It's a pretty complex process, but this is to look at proposing a charter government. So it's not, it's not a proposal for a charter, I don't know what the term is, but a charter system or charter government. It is my understanding is it's a proposal to set up a committee to do it, but like SB2 proposals, it's not an informal process. It is a formal process that forces subsequent downstream in that with a timeline, you do the study, you come up with a proposal, it has to be brought before the legislative body, it has to get voted on. So it's not a trivial thing, oh, somebody's curious about it, let's
Have
look
a
into
committee.
it. It's not a sense of the meeting kind of vote. This is an important one.
But does,
And
so,
it's
but,
not gonna be, since it's on the ballot, it's not going to be brought up or discussed at the annual meeting.
okay.
Well, sounds-
So to the best of your knowledge, and this is just an opportunity for us all to just, find out what we can and educate ourselves, is it a process that by the very nature of the fact that if it were to pass, it like starts, ensures a process, like that you have to move forward, or does it allow for a study committee to evaluate if it should move forward?
I don't know specifically, I don't think it does anything that mandates that a charter form of government come into existence.
Okay.
But I have asked for someone to give me pointers
Yep.
to it, and a copy of the petition warrant article, because my guess is that it references the RSA, and
Yep.
that's what I'm looking for, just to learn about it
Okay.
on personal.
Who has appointed authority for the commission members?
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is something,
Yeah,
most of what I know about it is from the days when Jim Belanger used to get up
say, just become a charter.
and use this as a viable alternative to SB 2.
Mhm.
Here's what I do know about a charter government. What it does is, it requires you to create representatives that the people vote for, and those representatives now become your surrogate votes. So,
Oh, that's what I was
Tom,
asking.
when
So
you say
there's an election, so you run for the committee, and the community elects you or the other person.
yep,
Okay.
So you said it becomes your votes. Does that take the place of a BudCom committee or a school board?
my understanding, and it's limited, is that the charter can be very explicit about which elements are impacted. So you can literally spell out that it is this charter government will have jurisdiction over, you figure it out.
Yeah.
But
I
it would
don't
change
know
our
if it-
articles of agreement, it would
Yeah.
change a lot of things.
I don't know if it would supersede a vote to have created a budget committee, whether it can override that or not. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Well, if you could find out the RSA that's referenced, that's a good place for all of us to start.
To answer your question, an RSA is not referenced in the
It isn't?
petition, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I did look up charter committees, and the towns that have them are usually very large, like Salem, 30,000 people, and very different from our town.
Okay. Well, that ties up the warrant as we know it for this for our purposes this evening.
Are we expecting other petition warrant, or don't we have information
I
on that?
believe the date is February 3rd.
Sometime in February.
Oh, so it's coming right up.
It's coming up.
We got almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, let me see if I can find the calendar really quickly.
February 9th.
Oh, February
Ah,
9th.
Still a lot of time.
That's a
Yeah,
lot of
that's a
time.
lot of time.
Okay,
So if you're done with warrants, I have a question.
sure.
I can't make the next meeting, I'll be out of the country.
On the 19th?
The 19th, and I would like to be able to take a position on the warrant articles. Is there any ability for me to do that? I'm out of the country, I'm not gonna listen to the meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just say no.
I honestly, I don't think there is, Tom.
Yeah.
Your vote was part of moving it tonight, so your support is part of the number, that we put forward that shows your support for it,
I
to
think
some degree.
he could give you a written statement
Yes,
that
but,
would at least make your opinions and concerns expressed.
Can he participate via Zoom?
He's saying choosing
No.
not to because of time differences.
Yeah, I'm not,
Time differences are, yeah.
and I listened to discussions like this, I've never been swayed, I've done this many years, and by a budget, by a hearing that where essentially 2 or 3 people show up.
Understood.
So I'm just, I mean, I'd like to be able to offer an opinion, but I'm definitely not gonna be here on the 19th.
Well, here's the question. I don't think there's anything procedurally that, that prevents you from doing so. You could perhaps make the offer to any committee members present tonight, if they choose to take their positions tonight, couldn't you?
I don't.
I mean, it'd be problematic if the numbers change, because then, we've supported or not supported a number.
Mhm.
Well,
But-
but I think that's what, you can support it based on what is presented tonight.
Yeah,
The question is, what's the last date that we can make take a stand on these things?
Mhm.
Could we have the special meeting just for the purpose of voting on these things sometime
well,
later?
yeah, I don't wanna I don't wanna be the cause of that.
I think the biggest thing is, when does this have to go to publication
Yeah.
for the reports?
I don't know the date for that off the top of my head.
I
Our
got
next meeting
the
wouldn't be till
impression
after town
that
meeting,
it
so-
was this
I mean,
month.
I'll just
think it's
leave
a
my
tight
vote off,
turnaround.
I guess. I'm not happy about
I
it.
don't
I'm not happy about it
Ryan,
either. You're
we had to
a staunch
limit it.
supporter of the district. You have been for years, and we, put a lot into the process. And I just don't know of a way to include your vote.
Yeah,
Um,
all right, well, I tried.
I'm happy to take a statement and read it into the record, after the public hearing, before we take a vote as a committee, so that it's on the record.
Well, I mean, I could make a statement here.
You could make a
You
statement
can.
here right now, yes.
It will be in the meeting minutes.
Okay, well, I'm unable to be at the February 19th hearing, and I would like to support Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, Article 4, and Article 5. I think that's, what was 6?
Open
6
enrollment.
was the open enrollment.
Yeah, I'll leave that one alone.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that.
No, I appreciate that you if there's any way I can come up with, I just don't know
No, I
another solution.
know, I've thought about it, but it ain't changing my trip.
Here it's Greenland.
I almost said that, but I decided not to.
So if we've completed that, I'd like to just move on and have a brief discussion about the metrics and kind of the information that'll be included in the public hearing deck. I shared with everyone the deck that we used last year. Any information in it were estimates at the time, which was on February 3rd, 2025, for the FY26 budget. I don't want anyone, if any number is discussed this evening, I don't want anyone to have it attributed to the FY27 budget. But what the public hearing present deck basically does is, after introducing the warrant with the stated, dollars associated with each article, I do, I try to keep it, I think I keep it to about 10 to 15 minutes or so. I try to keep it moving along, but just to give a brief overview of our enrollment and our enrollment projection for the co-op, the composition of the students between Hollis and Brookline. It's important, obviously, because of our apportionment formula. I have a chart that shows a cost per pupil trend. I have a trend in local tax effort, a summary of revenue and state aid and the changes that are, take place year over year. And and then kind of run through the estimate of how things will be apportioned, kind of the calculation that takes budget less revenue, it gets to an amount to be apportioned. We take out all the grant information to get to a total tax effort. I provided in summary for the co-op, talk about the apportionment formula that exists, and then talk about the impacts by town, with an overall estimated tax rate impact and percentage changes to the bill. And then we run right into the public hearing and all the associated articles. So we'll share a little bit of information on the SAU budget, the fund utilization for capital, where's our operating budget, some basic information, increases and decreases and things like that on the operating budget, and kind of just give some, high-level information, and we take input from the public on each article. So I'm not sure if there's any other information people feel would be compelling or important to include. When we move on to and we won't have a meeting after the public hearing before going to March meeting. And that presentation is very similar, but I do include a little bit more information on cost per pupil. Just kind of present some information in a different way, because people don't like to look at a chart full of numbers, and might, pie graph or something like that might work. But I don't know if anyone has any idea or as I said, something compelling that they think is important to include in either one. Tom Solon, it looks like you have a list.
I have a couple of comments, general
Okay.
comments. too.
Go ahead.
I sometimes in my business we tend to have something called bottom line up front, where you start out with the bottom line, and so instead of waiting 10-15 minutes to hear the bottom line summary chart that says this is basically where the money's going, this is what went up, this is what went down, I would start out with that. Part of the thing that I notice is if you start out on the first statistics you bring out here is the one that says this year we had 20 students less than last year. All of a sudden that triggers this argument that says you have fewer students, how come the budget's going up? And I think we need to avoid that argument altogether. And I think we need to somehow change the structure of the presentation to focus on the bottom line. And I think this year is a good story to tell. The numbers are reasonable. The school came out with a lower number. So somehow we need to, I would maybe work with you to maybe.
Is that for the public hearing or the March meeting?
That's for the March meeting. But,
Okay.
eventually we need to maybe rethink how the order of the story, that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Do we, I have a quick one. Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead, no.
Do we compare the cost per pupil to the state average as well?
So I do have a chart that I introduced last year for the March meeting that trends,
Page 7, slide 7.
on the public hearing deck.
Yes.
Is that the one you're
The
looking at?
one that you sent to us,
Yep.
yes.
So yes, that's one cost per pupil chart against the state average. But I have another one that I use in the March meeting that trends every district in the state and then finds the co-op and the state average. So what you see by looking at that chart is that where the co-op is lower than the state average, and in the lower,
Beautiful.
last year, third. Well,
This one,
this one was shared
okay.
at the district meeting. So
Yeah.
the darker line furthest to the left is the co-op, and then the other line is the state average, and then you can see the trend of every other district in the state.
That's good.
Not adjusted for inflation, nominal dollars, and that's based on the most recent information, which would be the update in March will be for the FY25 data. But the data for the public hearing is more concise, specific to the district, and, is that kind of one-for-one comparison to the state, only our district, for the last 15 years. Where we're always below the state average.
So that's a good positive signal, I think.
You know,
Yeah.
one thing that we seem to miss, and maybe it's not appropriate to do it, our costs are lower, but our performance is higher. We're always in the top performing, not only in the state, but in the country. I think that's important for the people to know what they're getting out of this, besides how much is it costing us and how do we compare to other schools. We compare very nicely with below state average in cost and below most schools in cost, but our students are exceptionally good. And to me, that's a value, because we're
And-
paying less and getting good results.
So maybe the school board should be making a point, and we should be emphasizing.
Someone should, because people in the town need to know that, I think. It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if there is an intention by the board for March meeting. For the public hearing, we're really trying to keep it to the content of the warrant, getting the articles read to the record, getting input, and the bigger, larger discussion is at March meeting,
Yeah.
where those kinds of comparisons and things are drawn. Maybe, there are probably copies of the, district report card and things like that. That'll be put together and position, and some information from the district on the articles themselves and things like that. And I'm not sure if the board or the superintendent plans on, drawing some of those conclusions, and presenting that, and that might well be the case, so. And I'm not gonna steal the thunder of the school board.
That brings up a good point. Somewhere I heard a discussion, and I don't really recall where now, that this would be a good year with a new superintendent to have the superintendent speak. Did that occur here? I don't think it did. But that anyway, I think that's a good idea, and she doesn't have to go on for 20 minutes. She can go on for 3 minutes to 5 minutes, and be impressive. But that's something that we haven't done in the past.
Not in the recent past. Not in the recent past.
Yeah, in the recent past, but particularly with a new superintendent. It would be nice to sort of introduce
An
it.
introduction to the district, official introduction to the district.
Yeah, I don't know where that discussion occurred, but I was at a round table where that discussion did occur.
It was right here.
Huh?
It was here.
Yeah, I thought it was here last month, or the month before.
Oh, was it?
I think we had a general discussion about what we can do to better communicate. Tony, it's a point Tony has brought up on multiple occasions, and I think it transpired in one of those conversations where we're brainstorming, what can we do?
Yeah, maybe.
And
it
where
did.
can we do it?
You know, if I
Maybe
thought it
you
was
were
that
the guy.
important, I should have been listening to myself.
Blame you. Or credit you, I should
My
say.
age, losing it.
Okay, well, if anyone has any other ideas or,
I do have something.
yes, Tom, you were the one who raised your hand first.
My guess is that, you probably can't see it in detail, but you've seen this chart put up on websites for petition articles, you've seen it put up all sorts of places. What it's showing is declining enrollment and rising budget. And my thought and suggestion is, can we create a slide that is essentially the same information? We have the existing slide on COOP enrollment, and to take that and overlay it with inflation-adjusted budget, and say, it'll show two things. First of all, one of the fallacies in this is it doesn't go to zero. So what you're looking at is a zoom in of a contour that in the grand view is a small percentage fluctuation. On top of that, it's not using inflation-adjusted values for the budget changes. And I just think it would be valuable for us to present same data in a, what I would consider more accurate manner. So that if, and I don't know that it will, but if someone is familiar with this, or if someone chooses to bring this up as part of a presentation, that we have something that has already been brought up that we can refer back to as a rebuttal. That's my suggestion.
Great. I firmly support scales that start at 0.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
I
know-
think any reasonable discussion start at 0, but I have some concerns about doing this particular one, though. Having charts, so we're sitting here in a large room, people are looking at a big slide up there. It's a long meeting. We're going through, dozens of slides to begin with. Adding another slide that has multiple sets of information overlapped on top of itself is really confusing. It takes a long time to absorb that kind of information. And I think it's going to be lost on people unless you really spend some time talking to that one slide. But we already have lots of slides that we're trying to go through. And
My thought process, Brian,
I
is just,
appreciate
is
it.
to
You're
have it in the
responding,
deck,
but-
not to dwell on it,
But-
but to have it
But people have-
entered into the court.
But people have to understand it first. And for a slide that presents a lot of complex overlaid information,
You
it
think
takes
it's a lot
time
of
to
overlaid?
understand that.
To-
Most people
a
in
trend
there
line?
already have never seen that chart before.
Oh, it's been shown, this
few people have
exact
seen it, but most
chart
people
has
have
been
not.
shown at least the last 2, if not the last 3, annual meetings.
And how many people have understood it? So
I
just think it's
can't
over.
speak to that, but we have a group of people
No.
coming to our school board meetings every month now, talking about this.
I've expressed my concerns.
Yeah, alternately, if you wanna create it, and we'll start doing it in a different context, but I would like to have it created by this committee who has the accurate data.
Does that chart have the references where they got the data and so on and so forth?
Okay, your point's been made, and I get it, we can look at it. I think we're spending a lot of time on that chart.
Okay.
But I appreciate
Yep.
the context. I will say we have that information individually, and there might be a way to bring it together, not to dwell on it, and in a more simplified manner that combines data, but doesn't
Creates
look
the
like a
foundation.
circus on a page. So we'll see,
Yeah. You
I
understand what I'm looking-
appreciate the input, and
That's it.
yes, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate the input and the perspective. One of the things I'd like to, and anyone can reach out to me at any time and say, hey Darlene, I think we're really missing blah, blah, we've talked about unreserved fund balance information and, things like that. We'll probably talk a little bit to the long-term debt picture for the district. Not that we have any debt that we're adding in this view, but it's good to just kind of remind people where we stand and really look at, what a low percentage our debt is compared to our whole budget and things like that, so. But while we're bringing up, I'm sorry, Tom, right before we get to the board overview, there was something I meant to discuss with the articles and kind of required information that needs to be brought forward. So Lance has copies of something called the mandatory report to voters on school expenses. It's something that was required by House Bill 1265, and it's required for every school district.
You know how to talk about it, I'm glad you got it.
to be posted on 11 by 24, and on a piece of paper that's 11 by 24. And Lance, I'll let you, you're gonna kind of talk to the specifics, and I'm sure one of the first things you'll say is that the scale is not to 0, and that is based on the wording of the legislation itself. Sorry, I had to just say. Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, so the language in HB 1265 lays it out pretty as clearly as anything is laid out in law what this needs to be, and that includes truncating the y-axis. So for cost per pupil, it had to be to the nearest 1,000. Same with average teacher salary, and then administrator salaries to the nearest 100,000. So it requires 3 line graphs and a table. So you see there, what they're named, what the title on top is all laid out in the legislation. The cost per pupil comes directly from New Hampshire Department of Ed, and it is adjusted for inflation. They write specifically in the law that you can use the Bureau of Labor Statistics inflation calculator. That's what we chose to do. Districts have done it slightly differently. We chose December as our benchmark because that was what the latest data was, so going back we could just be consistent. Average teacher salary is also adjusted for inflation, comes from the Department of Ed, and same calculation was used there. Administrator salaries is a unique one, and you see some interesting dips there. I'm going to read from the law, if I can. They define an administrator as superintendents, assistant superintendents, directors or coordinators of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or functionally equivalent officials, whether or not their salaries are listed by the Department of Education, and business managers or administrators. So within the SAU, that's shifted a little bit, whether there has been 1 assistant superintendent or 2. So you see the jumps there. Again, next year there would be another jump because we're back to having 2 assistant superintendents. And then the table has to list those
And these
for
charts are going to
FY26.
be briefed by the school board, or?
They'll be made. They're going to be made public. It has to be posted in the newspaper. So they'll be published soon and in 2 separate locations. I'll double check. I thought it was 18 by 24, but
It's 18 by 24.
18 by
What did I
24.
say?
Yep. So posted on 2 sheets of 18 by 24 paper in 2 other locations. We can add to those posted locations some additional information. One thing that definitely will be on there is the breakdown of the district's portion of the administrator salaries, because each district is not paying that amount. It was advice from legal to have the full amounts on all the reports. So one of these is going out for Brookline, Hollis, and the co-op. Happy to answer any questions about it. We did a lot of back and forth. Some districts included non-inflation adjusted data, which does stretch out your y-axis a little bit, but in my reading, and I got word back from our attorney this afternoon,
So for example,
should not be.
the 495,311.
Yes.
Is there gonna be a description of what that dot means, meaning, two principals, 1 assistant principal, 1, what?
I can explain it here, and we can add something to the side, but like on this specific posting, we cannot add anything
I mean, this is the way it was
additional.
defined, the posting is.
correct.
Yes,
They
yes.
explicitly state nothing
That no
else can be
additional
included.
information can be provided.
So the problem now is it could be easily misinterpreted and.
Yeah.
That was the point.
So we will, where it's posted in our public places, we will add a 3rd page to include that, and some context on there as well.
I would think that it would be good to, and for what it's worth, this is the first time I get to see it too, so.
To what? I'm
This is
sorry.
the first time I'm seeing this, so, it would be nice in contrast to the 3rd graph that's on here, which is going to be a zigzag because of how we title our positions,
Mhm.
to perhaps pick a larger group, and I don't know whether it should be entire SAU staff, payroll or whatever,
Mhm.
but somehow show one that has a lot more uniformity to it. You know, pick a group so that the big issue on this one that impacts us is that when we're able to, we like to have two people with the title of assistant superintendent because of the fact that that gives them ability to conduct board meetings, and it lowers the rate at which they have to contribute to New Hampshire retirement. So it creates a benefit to us functionally and a savings to us financially to do so. But it means that in 2024-25, which is the last point here, one of our SAU staff members did not have the title of assistant superintendent. They had the title of director of, so they don't show up on this graph. In 2026, they will show up on the graph. It's not like we added a person or increased our payroll by that giant amount. It's that we changed the title, so now they have to be listed on this graph.
I just hope Dawn captures that point that you just made in the meeting minutes, was that people need to understand.
Yeah. Because of what the community sees is we're top-heavy administration.
Yeah. So what you're seeing, those two data points that are high were the years when we had the person acting in the role that had the credentials to be an assistant superintendent. The 4 years, the next 4 points, we did not have someone with those credentials in the role, but the credentials were achieved during that year, and the title was changed for 2026.
And the, in the years we didn't have that position, we did have the role of a director of student services, but that's not reflected in the other totals.
Exactly.
So,
It's interesting.
so what you do see happen, obviously, when you expand the scale, is some leveling off of the, impact. And so that might be another, recommendation if you're adding additional information to adjust the scale
Yes.
accordingly and show what happens when it's kind of the same thing that you had just mentioned. Show what it kind of really looks like and provide some additional
And Greenland's
information.
not
for
really that
context.
large. Greenland's not really that large.
Depending on how you map it, right? So are these charts gonna be presented by somebody to the district?
No,
No,
they just get posted.
they get posted with our budget information.
That's gonna be dangerous, I'm telling you.
That's the law.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
For the average cost per pupil, how do you reflect, like, all the schools? Is it an average of?
There's an average, the state report has an elementary, a middle, and a high school. So for the co-op, it's a combination of middle and high school, and their average is
Is it weighted based on number of students, you know? I would suspect so.
I would
Yeah.
suspect so. I've never asked how they come up with I mean, I would expect that there's a calculation behind it based on all the reports that the DOE has at their disposal to be able to calculate that. But in a district, you know, I would say for Hollis or for Brookline, the average is the rate for the elementary schools.
So is this the average?
This is just the co-op.
This is just a co-op? Okay.
There's a separate report
So
for.
our average is,
Inflation-adjusted average is 24,000 per pupil. But Lance was kind enough to include the backup data, and the cost per pupil calculated is 23,444. And the 24,000 is the inflation adjusted. And I think one other important thing to note, Lance, is that the anchor year is adjusting everything to 2020, you said that in your note, but everything is adjusted to $2025.
Correct.
So it inflates the numbers this year.
Yes, based on the inflation reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So sometimes you see what we've typically presented when we show inflation-adjusted results from the Budget Committee is that we pick in the earlier year as an anchor year. And the impact shifts. This is doing the opposite. And there have been a lot of conversations about this just among the districts on the best way to, present the data and ultimately, aside from using the calculator, the districts have, run this by legal and made decisions on how they want to proceed, so.
Is there any way to show the state average around here? Because
Not on
you
this-
just look at that one number, it's like,
understand.
it's not.
The chart
Who is gonna look at this?
stipulates
Yeah, I know.
on a
Like, who is
big
gonna look at
giant
this?
piece of paper,
Yeah.
2 charts each on the paper. One, two are on one, and then the other paper has the other chart and the other graph and this little chart.
So based on the chart you showed earlier, that showed all the districts?
Yes.
That needs to be adjusted for these numbers to make sure.
I don't
they
need to,
match.
okay,
No?
okay, let me,
Or you
I,
don't
I
wanna go
would,
there?
I would post this and put a sign right next to it that says, the state is requiring us to post this, it is highly misleading.
No, that's a judgment, I mean, I think there will be fireworks at the district meeting, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of confusion.
so just so that everyone
Which
knows,
is the
this
point.
has been, yes, this is a requirement and we're complying, but for the 3 districts in the SAU.
Wow.
Great, so I think we're ready for the school board update, Tom, if there's anything left.
Yeah, one of the things when we reviewed the projected unassigned fund balance,
Mhm.
we had a discussion that, as it is in many cases, it's, a lot of times, these are driven by big swings in special education or other similar items, and that, in order to preserve the integrity of the ask when we ask, if we don't use it, there is a recognition that it should go back. In the past couple of years, we have selected target amounts of what we want to be able to return based on the projections. The last 2 years, I think it's been 200,000, and we've been able to do that or more. Assuming that something doesn't come in that's an unanticipated need that would dramatically change what the projections are, the board is comfortable setting the goal to be able to return $500,000 to the voters from the current year.
At least 500?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're at 600 plus right now, and there is a strong expectation that that number will grow as other elements get firmed up, because, again, we budget for what we have to do, and we look for opportunities all along the way for cost avoidance without impacting the education. So where that happens, whether it's through hiring, whether it's through windfall things such as the fact that maybe our energy, bringing some of the stuff forward on the energy will allow our fuel costs to go down. Who knows what it's gonna be, but the idea is that we don't anticipate unexpected growth. We hope for unexpected savings. And with the projection where it is now, there was a discussion last night at the meeting, and if you're curious about it, feel free to plug into the live stream. But I specifically asked, is there support for me communicating to this body that our goal this year will be to do 500,000 or more back? and there was unanimous support for setting that as a target. Because if you look at that, the number is significantly larger. We've already picked some key things that we want to use, that we want to pay for. Last year, we kept a chunk out to allow us to pay for the elevator work because there's a 52-week lead time on it, and we didn't want to wait until the year that we supposedly need it to pay for it and then have to wait another year to be able to do it. And so that's part of what's going into this is that, but again, that will allow us to have the elevator in proper operation based on anticipated needs that are going to be moving up into the building. So it all plays into the same thing, but the long story short of that unassigned fund balance, the board is, and the administration more importantly, is actively looking at, sort of quarantining $500,000 at least to return. I think that's a pretty bold statement. I asked that we publicize that now so that, again, it's not a guarantee, it's not an official commitment.
It's a
but
goal.
It is a goal and it's an intent, and I think that plays into the conversation when people talk about, are we over budgeting? We're not over budgeting, we are budgeting for what we might reasonably need, and when we don't need it, we will give it back. The other thing is, okay, we talked about the petition warrant article, talked about that. The other thing, in regards to using the unassigned fund balance, sometimes as we get towards the end of the year, we say, okay, well, we're planning on doing this next year, but we've got the money now. Is there a benefit to use the money now and therefore not spend it? And Superintendent expressed a view that I thought was an interesting one and one worth this body considering is when you're just flipping it over the July 1st timeline, by that time you've already budgeted for that, and it's one hand handing it to the other. If you don't spend it, you give it back, but then you have to have your budget and you take it right back. What she was saying is, if we do have a larger amount and we've already got this budgeted, look farther down the schedule, a couple of years, so that you can really perhaps stave off future expenditures. So instead of in 26 looking at 27, if we've got planned needs that are scheduled, do you look at bringing in a 2028 item that you want and you need, but you didn't want to commit to. So that is a thought process, and I wanted to present that to this group so that the pros and cons of such a thought process can be evaluated in months and years to come.
So,
Go ahead.
I have real concerns with that because the contingencies fund is supposed to be there for contingencies, emergencies that come up, things we're gonna go over budget.
This isn't the contingency, Brian.
This is the what?
Unassigned fund balance overage. So if you look
It
at.
just feels to me like you're treating that as an extension of the budget. You're basically expanding the budget with the unassigned fund balance.
No,
there.
what I'm saying is, if you look at right now, the data that Lance presented, there's 300,000 to be used in the maintenance trust, but that is money that is already expected. You know the conversations that happen. Is the maintenance trust, is it a savings account, or is it just a compartmentalization and things like that? But that's a section of roof, for example. This year we used it to do a section of roof because it would allow us to put the solar panels on sooner and things like that. We have a lot of these things like the roof where you've got chunks there, And it was just thought, would it be better for the taxpayers for us to use already collected money to pay for known needs with it, rather than playing with a budget that, this was a thought process, it's not saying we're doing, we wanna explore the pros and cons of doing something like that.
But it feels like it's, the thought here, this sounds exactly like using it as a slush fund, of having money set aside that should be in the budget, but you're not really putting in the budget, so
okay.
you're not being visible about it.
No.
Not that it's intentional, I understand the thought process that goes into it, but how is the effect different from that?
Well, you can't put it anywhere. So, see, I'm gonna lay this out and see if I'm interpreting what you're saying correctly, Tom. So say there's $750,000 left at the end of the year, and you've committed $500,000 to return. You're suggesting a way that the board wants to spend the $250.
Right.
So rather than look at that $250 and say, we're going to advance, I don't know, the paving that's on next year's budget. We're going to advance that and get that done in June.
We're gonna pay for it, yeah.
Yeah,
a
we're going
month
to pay
or
for it
two
in June.
early.
You're saying, you know what? Paving is covered. But in looking at 28, we see maybe a lot of the projects that didn't get through and didn't pass into FY '27.
Either that or
Potentially,
something that says
or-
that you've got a section of roof that you know you're gonna have to do, let's get that one done too while we've got people doing the 2027 section.
Right, so if I look at, say, the FY '28 section, yes, you'd say, okay, let's do 2 sections instead of 1. And then that knocks something off of the FY '28 CIP, because you know it's due to be done, and you're going to move it up. So I don't know that that's tremendously different from what you've been doing.
I'm just relaying
Yeah.
what was stated. I thought it was an interesting expression, and it was. worth
Because,
hearing.
I guess because I look at it as if you're advancing a project, like I just said, well, let's, move paving up, and let's take that off of FY '27, then that opens funding in your FY '27 budget, and I would anticipate that there's a whole list of other capital items that, like I said, got prioritized out of the budget.
Yeah, I
Or-
think it's how you do it. I don't think it's so much of things that are lower priority as just, so if, let's say you've got something you're gonna do this summer,
Yeah,
and you say, well, it's in the '27 budget, but we've got money left over in the '26 budget, let's pay it now. And then we won't pay it. And essentially what you've
Yeah.
done is you've
If that's the case.
pushed forward your
Unexpended.
unexpended money.
yeah,
And what she's saying is if you really want to make a difference, perhaps it makes more sense to actually spend it on something that you haven't already collected money or planned or
Right.
put into a fixed
Mhm.
But
budget.
if that's the case, then you should maybe you should take some action to not spend that money, or maybe reduce the budget the following year by that same amount.
Yeah,
yeah, because you can look forward at the CIP as you go into the next budget cycle, and you could say, oh, we already did this project, we
So
can
take
take
that
that
out,
out,
right?
and it lowers it, or you can say, but we can, you can change,
it can have a domino effect.
yeah, and shifts.
To me, it makes sense if there's some synergy involved where, because you're doing that, you've saved additional money by lumping things together. I think you said something about the roof and the solar panels. It makes sense. It doesn't make sense to do them separately because the cost could be more in separating them out. But while you're working on the roof and while you're doing HVAC or while you're doing some electrical, it fits in. Everything fits in. And because you pulled it from ahead and doing it now, not only are you getting something done, but you're getting something done at a lesser cost. I think that's something that can be easily sold to someone. I think we see this around our homes too. If you're gonna do the plumbing, in the bathroom, maybe do the plumbing in the house. rather than piecemeal. And if we can find some things that have some relative synergies between them that save additional money by pulling it forward, then it makes sense to do it.
I think the point in her bringing it up was just so that it was just sort of giving some insight into her thought process. And when we see proposals, it will not be a shock to see, it might not be a shock to see that it's something that isn't for the next month, it's something for the next year.
I think a point of clarification here, though, is that really what the voters do, and what, we do to some extent, is we define a bottom line number that we give to the school board in particular, and the school board manages that. So the budget that's proposed to us, it doesn't necessarily mean that's how they have to spend it. They could, in theory, they wouldn't, but they could, in theory, take that money and do completely different things than what was in their budget. Now, obviously, they're not going to really do that, but the point is, once we approve the numbers, it's the school board's in the school board's purview to manage those funds however they see fit. So really, you're asking for our advice here, but really the power lays entirely with the school board. There's something about this that kind of strikes me as being wrong from a budgetary process.
Yep.
Thing, because you're now spending for things that you never budgeted for, that hasn't been socialized.
You're
But
concerned about
there
the
could be-
the
but
vetting
there
process
doesn't-
potentially, yeah.
But there are
Yeah.
potentially savings there for it too, so it's reasonable. It is reasonable. There's just something about it that just strikes me as not being.
I think we have to see what actually
Reasonably
comes out of
right,
this, and it may be that when executed, it might not be something that the administration decides is really the way they wanna go. I thought it was a novel idea and something I hadn't heard expressed in that way before, and I'm saying to you, not so much for approval or advice, is you folks own the budget, and you take great care, the budgeting process, creating budget, and you take great care in that responsibility. So I wanted to share it with you because I found it interesting. I hoped you would too. That's I'll leave it at that.
I do.
It's very reasonable to do that. It is reasonable. As I stop and think about it, it's a very reasonable approach. But there's just something about it, I can't quite put my finger on it, that raises like a yellow flag for me.
It all depends what word you use to describe it.
It also depends on what the money's used for and how much money there is for
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And
You know,
is there money going
It's-
back
it's-
to the taxpayer? Or are we talking about all the money going back?
No, this is talking about the types of items that the administration recommends to the school board to potentially fund from the unassigned fund balance as we approach the end of the year and we know what we have back. So we're gonna have this chunk of money, we hope, and based on the projection that Lance has given us tonight, it currently is in excess of $600,000. The board has said that, knowing that number, and actually the number's larger, but after the items that are anticipated being used for, one of which is the elevator because of the 1-year lead time on it. Because of that, the board wants to essentially carve out a chunk of that and say, let us plan to at least have this amount to go back. But there will be, we hope, additional money that may be in consideration in the decision we asked, do you want to add to that amount? Or are there other items that we feel are appropriate uses of this money that's already there? In line with what Brian has said, we have bottom line capability, the money has been approved for use for the schools. What's an appropriate use?
So regarding process, can the school board just go ahead and do what they need to do, and they don't need to include the budget committee anymore in that?
We
And
don't
if
need
they
to have the
don't-
budget committee, we have, I believe, have to have a hearing on use.
Okay.
for use of the unassigned,
And I think the
expenditures
school
against
board
it.
has included the budget committee in past times, haven't they? I
They
don't-
have to, but they don't have a legal
No, I think you
requirement.
have, whether,
Right.
exactly, but I think we've been a part of the conversation.
I don't think there's any surprises in what Lance presented
Yeah.
tonight.
And I endorse what Tony said, you know, that's a good example, doing the roof so you can put the solar up, and there's another piece of that, once the solar's up, you're saving on energy. So it, from an economic point of view, that's a good example of something moving up if you can.
And one of the questions I did raise last night, and we don't really know the answer, we're gonna look into it further, is find out, based on the timing that we've been able to bring the items in to meet what we expect are the qualifications for the rebate programs, find out, based on the anticipated schedule for the high school mountings and completion dates of that, will we be able to apply for and potentially receive any of those rebates in next fiscal year? That's an unknown right now.
That would be great to know.
And I did reach out to our bond counsel to ask about
What can we do if we get a
legally
rebate?
what are options with that.
Yeah, because the question is, when it was a lease, we had a lot of options, but with a bond, it's more restrictive. Can we use it towards payments? Do we need to refinance if we want to apply it to principal? All these questions, and that's in the driver's seat for that one. So the fact that we're asking the question and need to find that out, that to me is a really positive thing.
Mhm.
That's it.
Great, thank you. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. It's 8:28, and we normally have a 2-hour meeting. So the last section is the legislative update, which could be lengthy. So there are a couple ways we can go about it. I did share with everyone a link to updated LSRs that link to bill names and things that are happening at a very fast pace up in Concord. So,
Can you just talk about the 2 or 3 highlights, the important ones?
so, SAU consolidation is still on the table, open enrollment. They're always talking about funding levels for adequacy in the statewide education property tax. There are actual bills that are talking about, so the statewide education property tax it collects $360-ish million. The number has never changed, so now they're talking about changing that number. It's never been adjusted for inflation or anything like that. But if that number goes up, statewide education property tax rate goes up and things like that. So it's all, related into a big pool, but that money comes directly back to it stays within your community and things like that. There are pieces of legislation that stipulate subjects and certain things that need to be taught in schools related to firearms and firearm safety. That would be mandatory. There are just a host of issues and items that are being addressed. So I don't want to rush it, but I do want to put attention to it. So I'm wondering if there's any, if anyone has any interest. I said earlier that we would not be having a meeting in February because of our public hearing. We certainly could meet again or have like a workshop to talk through, legislation and kind of what the highlights are. If anyone's interested in that, I'd be happy to be available, the second week of, sometime during the second week of February. We can talk about a date then. I don't know if you're traveling, Tom.
No, that's good.
Oh, okay.
Before you leave, right?
Leave the 16th.
16. Do you have the calendar up, Lance? I can get it.
How about a
I do.
Valentine's Day workshop?
Nope, I think I have something else.
That's That's a Saturday, by the way.
When is the HSD
Workshops are very
public
formal,
hearing?
charters are very formal.
The 10th with a snow date of the 11th.
Okay, so, thank you. So, maybe the 12th, it's a Thursday?
I think there is a SAU
Okay.
governing board meeting.
Oh,
that
there's a
day.
governing board meeting. Okay.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have us down for the 12th.
You have what?
I have us down for the 12th.
Oh.
That must be an error.
I think we were originally thinking the public hearing might be that date, so we had probably
Well,
talked about
that's
that.
the SAU public hearing. Isn't that the 12th?
No. The SAU budget public hearing was in December.
But I have another one on my,
There's a governing board meeting on the 12th. Like
What
a
about
regular
the-
standing governing board meeting?
okay.
What
I
about
had
the
a
11th?
hearing. So
Yeah.
there is no hearing on the
There's a-
12th.
No hearing on the 12th, it's the 19th now.
Are you
I
talking
think we
February?
originally, it
Are you
was
talking
originally.
February?
Well,
Yeah,
What? Yeah,
There's an SAU governing board meeting on the
yeah,
12th.
yes.
okay.
What about Monday, the 9th?
I thought the question was whether or not we wanted to
If
meet
you
in
wanted to do
February.
it, and if you
I-
wanted to, or, you know, we
I-
could wait till the very beginning of March, March 5th-ish, that seems to be maybe before things
love-
start rolling.
So we could have a meeting just to discuss two things. The legislation,
Yeah.
but all the warrant articles that have been submitted till the last minute, you know?
Oh, any of the petitions that come in?
Petition warrant, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
February,
good
for
point.
what
We
it's
should
worth,
have a meeting.
February 9th is the Brookline School District public hearing.
Oh, okay.
What happened to the 12th?
Was the governing board meeting, so Tom Solon wouldn't be here.
I can't vote on anything anyway.
You can't vote anyway, so we can go back to the 12th. If the 12th looks like a
The
generally
12th?
good date.
Yeah, I don't know that to me, it makes sense to have a meeting just to vote, to discuss legislation that we have very little impact on. But, on the other hand, we'll have other petition warrant articles, and we should have an opportunity to vote recommendations on those.
Yep,
The ones that we decide that we wanna have recommendations on.
And there may be some updated numbers.
Yeah,
and there could be
Right,
some,
as a-
some
The other things,
collective
yeah.
bargaining information as well,
yeah,
so.
yeah. The
it's-
12th works for me.
All right, we'll go with the 12th then.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think the legislation is very important,
I agree.
just because people don't track that.
Right.
It's very
It-
confusing.
Yes,
And
and
it
then,
involves our schools.
and it is, and I appreciate
know.
the expertise you bring specifically to that, Melanie, because there's so much happening and so many, you know, things that get changed. So for example, you know, one of the bills that you can, submit public input on is, I believe it's House Bill 1131. It's on, scheduled for a public hearing tomorrow. But it was, the topic I'm about to discuss is it's a trailer to another bill that is being described as like dead on arrival. So whatever the topic originally was, it looks like that would have failed, but now this trailer bill has been added that would change of, like if you were to, district like ours, were to vote on SB2, right now, based on legislation that's passed, I would say within the last 5 years, 3 years, we would vote on that at town meeting. Prior to that legislation, it required an all-day vote. So now this trailer bill is being, you know, this language is being added as a trailer to House Bill 1131, which would return the voting mechanism back to an all-day ballot vote. You can certainly go online and provide input, however you see fit. But again, it's something that comes up and that we're not necessarily aware of, because I can give you a list of LSRs and House bills, and you can go on Legiscan, New Hampshire Legiscan, and look up to your heart's content. But these trailer pieces and these amendments that get submitted at the last minute aren't there, and you have no way of knowing that that's even a topic. And I know what happened to me a lot last year was things that looked like, even based in Legiscan, saying, oh, on this date, it's going to have a public hearing, and you go in and you try to say, okay, I want to look at House Bill this because the Education Committee is seeing it on this date, and then all of a sudden, it's not there, because the schedule changed, and they don't tell you when the new date is, and Legiscan isn't updated. So it is very hard to keep track of everything that's going on. So, and it is important. There are over I believe, over 300 bills just for, relating to education in school districts. And, the things that people think won't get traction often do. The things that get so much attention sometimes get resolved, then sometimes end up carried over and discussed again. And so it's just a constantly, it just feels like.
Is
it's
the
just
school
hitting
board
it.
association helpful here? They should be.
Well, yes, the list of LSRs and things that I gave you is, but again, even when those things come up, sometimes the bills they ask, say this one, we're tracking this, and this. I can look at 4 or 5 others that I'm like, but you should be tracking this, and this.
Well,
So it
that's where
it's
the
hard.
NHSBA does rely on the delegate convention annually to identify the issues and priorities. They've got, I think, 5 people in that office, and there's almost 500 education-related bills this year. So they have to pick and choose. They do
Yeah.
file positions on them regularly, and the update that Darlene is referring to does include, if you go in through the NHSBA link, it does include their positions. Some of it'll be oppose, support, tracking, and that sort of thing. So they're tracking most of these, but they don't necessarily take positions on them.
Mhm.
They just inform.
Okay. I would like to just also say that the window for filing is open now. So Raoul's seat and Dave,
No?
for the Hollis School District, the municipal
Oh, not this one.
budget committee, not this one. Raoul and Dave Blinn, their seats are up for election, and the window is open, so you can stop by the SAU office to get a form. You can get one by email through Diane Levitt, but if you wait until the last day, you have to do it in person. So just kind of make that statement, and the last day is next Friday, I believe, which is the 30th.
I
Is it
think she
already?
said she'd
I
be,
No.
be in her
Yeah, it
office.
is.
The 30th,
It
it's the
is.
30th, so, I just wanted to announce that. I think that's it for me. Melanie, as our process observer.
Well, it's 8:38, so that's not too bad.
We did start a few minutes late, so.
2 hours. A lot of good conversation and, concerns as well. And I think, again, it's important that we're talking about the legislation, in my opinion. But all in all, a tight meeting. Very good. Very well done.
So at this point, I will, at 8:39 PM, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
From Brian, seconded by Tony. All those in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Thank you.
So we did decide in that